our theme, it's Christ in the midst of crisis. And our minister touched a little bit on one of the crises that we are facing now. And how you know you're in a crisis when your back is against the wall and you can't do nothing. You try what you can try and nothing else you can do. Your strength has faded. I have here in my hand a football. Most of them know football as soccer, don't they? This one is the American football. So when you go to America and you play football, this is what you play. In America, if you play the one that we kick, talk about our regular boys, they call it soccer. Right? So when you speak to Americans and international market, you have to say soccer. S-O-C-C-E-R. You can't say football. Right? There are two important persons in it. I don't want to explain the game to you. But what happened is that the ball, when defensive line up, and the ball is tossed to the quarterback, the quarterback has everybody chasing him. And something miraculous happened. Once the quarterback passes the ball, get ready for this ball, Ryan, passes the ball to the running back, all the attention changes from the quarterback to the running back. And so the problem is no longer the quarterback's problem. It is the running back's problem. Because he now has the burden of running with the ball and everybody chasing him. Can I tell you, it's the same thing we do in Christendom? Oftentimes, we want to run with the problem. When we have a God who is able, stand ready for us to pass back the ball to Mariah. Pass the ball. That's what God said. Pass it. So what we need is a handoff approach. Some of us don't have that handoff approach. God stand ready. So what we are doing is holding on to the problem, and we are getting tackled by the game of life. And if we are tackled by the game of life, oftentimes we lose. We need to pass on the ball. Handoff approach. Handoff approach. Handoff approach. What is bothering you this morning? What problem do you have this morning that you are running with? You're running with it, holding it dear to your heart, and they're chasing you. You need a handoff approach. I want someone to leave here with that in their mind. Because when we leave here today, Pastor, we're not going back home with a problem. We're not going home with a problem. Let it go. Handoff approach. This is what I'm talking about. Do you have a handoff approach with God this morning? Do you have that handoff approach? Because a prayer cleans, not clean. The problem is ours. Where we are out to self and burden down to self and carry. And God stand ready. Handoff approach. A handoff approach is necessary because Christ is in the midst of our crisis. That's what we're talking about. So we're going to put it right here. So we're going to preach again. And every time you look at it, this is your problem. And every time you say, what is bothering me? So you see if this vaccination is your problem, a handoff approach. You see if your biscuit pan and your bread pan empty, handoff approach. You see if you're suffering from an illness, handoff approach. You see if you have relationship problems, handoff approach. You see if your kids giving you trouble, handoff approach. Some of we have some landlord and some people who live amongst, they are the devil from the pit of hell. Handoff approach. That is what we are talking about this morning. Christ in the midst of our crisis. So I have a little sub-theme to it. Have no fear. Jesus Christ is here. That means it. Don't it? Have no fear, brother audience. Jesus Christ is here. And so we are going to turn our attention to the book of Mark 6. We read it early this morning, and I'm going to give you a synopsis of what happened, and then we're going straight to the verse that I want to go. This text, of course, should strengthen us, and it should help us during our crisis time. But most of all, we want to anchor ourselves. We faith need anchoring in Christ, because some of us too weak. Weak. We are Christians, and we know we were blood washed, and we change, you know. But guess what happened? We now hold up so well in the crisis. We're not holding up so well, Pastor Sam, in the crisis. We're not holding up so well because we are holding on to the burden too long, but we need that handoff approach. Let us go. Verse 32, we don't have to read it over because we know what it was saying. Jesus was teaching and walking around the place. While he was doing that, his disciples said, Master, it's time to send away the people because they are hungry. Where we are is a deserted place and they don't have no corner shop. There is no Mega Mart, no Price Mart. There is no market like downtown Kingston or Crossroad Market, so persons will get hungry and cause problems. The God that I know. This is the God that I know, you know. And Ryan said it in a song this morning, it won't always be like this. That song was a message to somebody, you know. It won't always, you think this every day we're going to pandemic. Pandemic too shall pass. This is a season of hardship. It too shall pass. And so Jesus said to them, why worry? Feed them. Jesus said that to them, you know. Feed them. I want to go to verse 37 because it sounded like it was an argument. Like the man that was said to Jesus, so we must find 200 pennies to go feed the man. Then we must get so much money. Go to verse 37 for me. He answered and said unto them, give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, shall we go and buy 200 penny worth of bread and give them to eat? What the disciples must find that amount of money to feed 5,000 people. In a time of crisis, where must you find this money to feed all these people? So I believe they were saying to Jesus, you are crazy. You're not seeing the crowd. This is not like when we saw the whole little feeding program and feed 50, 100 and 200. 5,000 people. And Jesus is saying, feed them. Jesus said, what I love about Jesus, Jesus is not argumentative, you know. All the time we are quarreling. We do it all the time, we argue with him. Say, Lord, you see this and that. And you know that. And Jesus was like, listen, we do it all the time. All the time. Recently, minister said, I pray some things because things happen in the yard and he's supposed to say, Lord, why do you have to go in the yard? And look how much yard you pass. Why that one? It happens. So you talk to the Lord. Jesus don't argue. Jesus said, just look among yourself and tell where you find. They found bread and they found fish. Jesus break, pray, and everybody was fed. In fact, it was more than enough because they took up 12 baskets of leftover, you know. And for a side note, one wealthy person told me that that's when you know you're wealthy. Whenever you eat at a table, you must have whole heap of food leaf over.
Yes.
You didn't know that? Whenever you eat, and you have whole heap of chicken leaf and whole heap of that's somewhere someone will eat, and the curry goat and the fish, that's how you know you're wealthy. I couldn't tell when last I eat and left over. Because time hard and rough. Things not going so good. I don't know about you, but about my situation. So somebody's saying Sunday, Monday work. Saturday, Sunday working now.
Wednesday.
So I'm talking to some real people. Because sometimes you talk to some people, they can't understand what you're saying, right? Because the biscuit pan overflowing. And I'm not saying Jesus is not a provider. It's just that this time I'm not drinking from the saucer. They're drinking out of the cup. I am drinking from my cup.
Exactly.
So I'm just taking the time for those of you at home. Because it says sometimes coffee, sometimes you're up on the mountain, sometimes you're in the valley. Time of crisis. And I want somebody who is drinking from their cup, Pastor Sam. Understand that some of us sometimes is only salt alone inside the house. Yes. Sometimes you don't even have salt when you see a sugar pan low. Low. And you can't turn east, west, north, or south. We're in a troubled time. Troubled time. Some of us a few months ago we were giving in abundance. Now, Guinness is not done. So it only means a few Guinness on the tree. So you can't pick no bag of Guinness again. Easy. And so Jesus said to them, do that. And he picked up. So Jesus was scarce. Jesus was suffer from scarcity. But what happened was that when that happened, the disciples didn't even understood what happened. And that is why the verse at the end 52 said that is after he allowed them through a crisis later, they knew who he was. I want you guys to understand that God himself has carried us through several miracles.
Yes.
Only by time we are delivered, Pastor. Several times our backs against the wall. We don't know who to turn to. We look up and cry out and we were delivered. But this time around, we are treating the matter different. And that is why I tell you from my preacher Josephat's story, he let it go. My heart free, I'm happy, you know. Every day I just live that moment like I'm a last. Because I don't know long. Last, it might be. Listen, if God not ready for you done yet, you can't get it, you know. My mother called me yesterday and she was saying, boy son, I'm worried about you know, because based on your stance, you might get no problem and little kids to feed and things. And I listen to her and then she said, you know what the Lord put in my spirit? If the Lord said a jumper to feed Elijah. You guys knew that? Yes. Elijah run till he's tired. Because he might run from Jezebel, because according to him, he's the only one that remains. And he run and sleep and wake up back and run again and just run at Jezebel. This is after the man work miracles, isn't it? And God said, wake up. And he was fed by a jonko, because we know them. We say raise them, jonko feed him. And he had a conversation with God. And God said, why are you running? He said, because I'm the only one left. God said, joke. God always have a remnant. If you think you're the only one praying, you make a sad mistake. When you are necessity at your bedside, somebody over there at your bedside, somebody across the road at your bedside, God always have a remnant. You need to stand for God. Once you stand up for God, God will stand up for you. So that word wasn't for me, it was for her. Because she was now comforted and she called me and said, I'm just telling you that this was what I was thinking. I said, oh, good for you guys. Me not afraid. They said one man was about to be hung. And you know when they're about to hang you, they say, what is your last request? And they give the man say, want to hold him for food, so he get him curry and him this and him eat and see. One body watch him and will look at him and say, so you don't worry like how you have got dead. The man said, me don't know if you make a threat. But me not afraid. Me not afraid. Me not even worried. That's the joy I have in the spirit. In this time of a crisis. We need that joy in this time of a crisis, people of God. If you allow the time and the things of this world to be on your mind every day, it you out. Some of you start getting gray hair and you never have so much gray hair. Gray hair start appearing in some place where it never start appearing. Because you're stressing yourself. Remember we talk about the handoff approach. And so we come to where Jesus said, listen, they didn't understand the miracle. And so that's why we're going to preach this for you today. Because you didn't understand when God came through for you last week. You don't understand when He came through 2 years ago, a month ago, 5 years ago. And so we need another reassurance. Because we are in the midst of a crisis, Pastor Sam. And so, at the end of it, let us run on now to verse 45. Because after Jesus worked the miracle, Jesus did something. Look what Jesus did after working the miracle. Verse 35, right here. And straightway He constrained His disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida while He sent the people away. This is important because Jesus forced His disciples into a boat. They didn't want to go, and because of the miracle that happened and they believe it, they don't understand it, Jesus said, alright, time to go, time to go, time to go, time to go. Get into this boat, get into this boat. And I said, Master, why are you not coming? I'll soon come, I'll come after. Don't worry, get in the boat, get in the boat. And send them on their way. After that, Jesus bid his goodbye, and then He said to the people, alright, depart. Then He went to pray. The first thing I want you to understand in your time of crisis, and this is what you must know, Jesus guides us. You see, this time of crisis, I believe the Lord guiding us through this time of crisis. I have no doubt about it. Some of us faith need to be strengthened. Some of us prayer life needed more work. Because listen, if some people never pray, man, let me tell you, this is a season where a lot of people start pray back, you know. People that pray now mission. Before you used to just step on your phone about life and business, before you touch all the phone now is a prayer you're praying. Because Christ needs to get our attention. These men were in the boat because God put them in the boat. So you are in your situation not because of your fault. This crisis that you are going through is not your fault. They are going to encounter a storm, and let me tell you, a storm is a natural disaster. It's not you do it. Not you do it. But Jesus had them exactly where He wanted them. Because He's going to use this storm to drive them back to Him. And so your crisis is supposed to drive you to Christ. And that is why I said, when the crisis comes, handoff approach. If you focus on the crisis in hand, everybody is chasing you. When you give the problem to God, then God has to deal with it. When the quarterback releases the ball to the running back, nobody chases the quarterback. We don't need to chase it anymore. The ball is important. And that is what is causing the problem. Whatsoever issue you are having, that is what is causing your mind to be able not to focus and to think at this time. And so, the storm that they are going to encounter wasn't their fault. God is guiding them through. I remember when Gilbert came. Many of us, don't they? Gilbert, and of course with my son there was Gustav, and there was Hurricane D, and some others. Yeah, but I remember Gilbert well. During Hurricane Gilbert, I remember we backed down, and that was the first hurricane we were encountering, right? I was very young at the time. Talking about not your fault, you know. Some persons were ridiculing others. I remember my stepfather back in down the house, and we were in the tenement yard at the time, and one young lady, believe you me, she ridiculed him. I don't know my stepfather to get mad. She said, whoa, watch me say that all button down and the storm now come. Every day there's a storm now come and the storm now come. And she brought with all kind of something. And I remember the gentleman, he was just doing this. Every time I hear storm come and he said, hold up a piece of board there for me. And I always don't believe it, but this time, I think it's gonna come. And him back down and back down. Can I tell you, as night turned today, a good thing never come at night. The weather changed fast. After that, the rain came. You know who first run out of the house? The same young lady. Whoa, so that you now come go to school. We're not going out to school because we're back down. Natural disaster, not your fault. But while that went on, a apple tree over the house fell inside, burst a little section at the back there of the house, and believe you me, water like crazy. You couldn't set the bucket quick enough for it to pull out. Chain reaction. So while this part of the house now wet, everything over here suffered shit. Is that a big house, you know? So a 3-bedroom I tell you about, you know? If the house big like the restroom it did. I remember the house clearly. You had a little stove up here, so. You know the little table them way, the blue chair them coming in blue or red. The little thing, one of that right here, so, the bed right here, so, and that was the house. So when water come in the house and wet up, I would catch water. It wasn't our fault, but it was a crisis time. Because you thought you were safe by battening down, but apple tree fell in your house and caused it to be exposed. And so now you have to get water out. My mother and father work the whole night. We are picking all them, so just go on the table and lie down. So I know one of the time we drop asleep and when we wake up, then say, oh, the eye. So it settled down. He said, Father said, don't go too far because it will come back. Lo and behold, I'm reaching over the gate and the breeze and rain again. Run back up. I said that to say this. If the Lord needs your attention, He will do things to get your attention. This is a season where God is guiding us through. We want to see Christ in this time of crisis. So I don't want you to look at whatever issue you are faced with. And I look at the issue. Find Christ in that crisis. So we move to the next main point. Christ watches over us in our time of crisis. Amen. So not only guide us and leave you, but Christ is watching you. Even when you don't know that He's watching. He's there. He guided the disciples and said, go across onto the other side. Go to verse 48. Let us read it down. 46 right here. And when He had sent them away, He departed to the mountains to pray. Christ is always praying. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and He alone on land. 47, these where we want to go. And He saw them toiling in rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. We want to stop right just a little bit. Is a little squall going in or storm that, you know? Christ sent them on their way, and in the midst of it, storm took them. Where was Christ when they were fighting for their lives? That is the question I ask. These men are fighting for their life. Where was Christ? He was watching, fully aware of what was going on. I want somebody to know that the crisis that you're going through right now, Christ is aware of our crisis. You might be going through a storm for reason unknown to you. And you feel like Christ is thousands of miles away. Like He's not near. But Christ is looking out at you and looking out for you. I want somebody to get that in the spirit, man. Christ will look out for you. You know what surprised me? Nowhere in the story did I hear them say they're crying out for help. You don't see them praying. I don't see them saying, help Lord. No time. You know what they were doing? Rowing. Hard. Struggling with the wind. Doing things their way. Without allowing Christ to take over. Can I tell you, do not wear out yourself and wait until you are at the end of your strength before you allow Christ to come in. Hand off. Because some of us right now, we're at the end of our strength. We can't go no further. Jesus take the wheel. We have some bad people here and give a problem. Every day a trouble. We have a hand off now. So Christ, you take them. You give them to us. Some of us have some spouse that not go and go. Time for Christ take it. Some of us are under pressure at work because them say either we're going to take it or we're not going to take it. And it can cost your job because remember you have your mortgage or your rent to pay. Your children they must eat. So your back is against the wall. And you try hard, you tile, you rule, and you wear out yourself. What storm are you going through? What storm are you going through? Are you wearing out yourself like these disciples? Are you wearing out yourself like these disciples? Quit wearing out yourself. Quit doing things your way. Invite Jesus to come on board on your ship and take over. I ask myself the question, why did God wait so long? Why Jesus wait so long? The man them are tired and rowing. He sent them out there. And they're rowing. Remember, these men saw Jesus work a miracle earlier. You and I have never physically walked with Jesus like that. They experience it firsthand and they don't believe. They're not crying out to Him. So Jesus had to allow them to go through this. Some of us are going through this crisis because there's a lesson to be learned in our crisis. And we are in a pity party state, thinking that, hey, all is lost, all is not lost. Let us look, find out. We see Christ guide. He watches over us. Somebody needs to know that Christ rescue. That is the powerful part. He will guide you in the situation. He will watch over you. And He's going to rescue you. That's what we need now. We need rescue. And so it says, what it says, after they wear out themselves, and they do all they can, it says about the what? Fourth watch of the night. I wish this version would have tell you that it was 3 o'clock in the morning. At 3 a.m. in the morning, Christ did something. Look what it says. He cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed them. Sometimes some people think that Christ is going to walk past the disciples. A better translation would read that He was going in their direction. Christ was going to His disciples. Let me tell you something. Because when you read this, some of you sit down and you don't even understand. Do you recognize Christ was walking on the sea? That is powerful to me. Christ didn't need a boat. Somebody would worship God in the house. Listen. Christ is not stopped by a boat. If you're in the midst of the sea, Christ can get to you. It did not say Christ was on another boat. So when He set them on the sea, and they said, how are you going to reach? Christ knew very well He was going to walk out there to them. Hey, let me tell you this, man. This is powerful. Somebody need to catch this. I don't know if you're in the middle of your stay and you think Christ needs a boat and you're looking for a boat to come. Because you sing a song, the lifeboat comes to your rescue. That's what the song goes? Your lifeboat. Rescue me. Jesus came to their rescue. Lord, watch. Somebody need at 3 a.m. right now, missionary. Somebody sitting in front of me needs at 3 a.m. They need a fourth watch. Christ needs to walk out to you and rescue you because you're at your wit's end. You feel as if you can't make it no more. Christ would have you sitting here today listening to this sermon to let you know that He is God and He is fully able. He rescues us. Watch the disciples now. Rub out them eyes. But when they saw Him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit and cried out. And because we're Christian, right? So if a secular man writes it, they will say the cry out will be a cuss of bad word. You know that? That cry out right here, I wonder when you cried. Then there was a Jesus. You know the scare tactics. Because when you're afraid, when you're born, they cried out. And I'm saying, these are disciples who walk with Him. They talk with Him. They eat with Him. They correspond with Him. And they don't know Jesus.
Come on, preacher. Come on, sir. That's it right here. You didn't know Him.
Some of us are sitting right here. We need a double dose. We walk with Christ. We talk with Christ, Pastor Sam. We get miracles from Christ. But we're still crying out when we see God walking towards us for help.
Come on, preacher.
Somebody crying for help. You know what I love about Jesus? When they cried out right here, the next verse is powerful.
Yes.
Jesus responding. Because when you're desperate, Jesus will not allow you to go under. And so in desperation, Jesus responded. For they all saw Him and were troubled in their spirit. This is Jesus the thing, you know, thinking it was a ghost. Water giving them problem. Wind giving them problem. And I said to myself, was Jesus not perturbed by the water? If you guys know the sea whenever there's a storm, you know. It's like if you go down to the seaside now and see calm. Whenever there's a storm, you know, if you see what the surfers surf on, you know, it's full up, you know. The sea get mad. This is what Jesus was walking on. And He never said get him surfing. So while the wind going on, Jesus was taking a stroll because He's going towards them. I see in the spirit, Pastor Sam, Jesus walking towards somebody. I see that in the spirit. Jesus is walking towards somebody. This sermon was important, you know. Somebody needs to know Jesus is going to rescue them. Jesus is walking towards somebody right now. Because you're troubled in your spirit. Your spirit is troubled. I don't know what is troubling somebody. You're troubled in your spirit. Jesus is walking towards you now. He's going to rescue you. Look what He said. And immediately He talked with them and said to them, tell your neighbor that. Tell the next neighbor, be of good cheer. Listen, man, you're leaving church rejoicing. Problem over. Christ is over. Be of good cheer. He said, be of good cheer. And He never stopped there. He said, it is I. Let me tell you that. He told them who He was. You see that it is I speaks of the I am. He said that I am God. I am more than able. I am a provider. I am a deliverer. And so He said, be not afraid. The Jehoshaphat, I will come back again. See, be not afraid. That must sink in somebody's spirit. What are you afraid of? You see, it's not your fault why you're in the mess. But it's your fear that is going to take you out of the mess. It's not your fault, but your fear is going to take you out of the mess. You see, we need to invite Jesus on our boat. Because immediately when they understood who Jesus was, immediately Jesus came on the boat and the wind stopped. That is why the verse said to you, they didn't understand him before. But now they knew he was God. So they were enlightened. This morning, this afternoon, we are enlightened. We got big. People talk about God bigger than this and big. Listen, we got another bread and butter God. I tell people that all the time. So you think that bread and butter God will provide, but tell them sugar pan. You think that sugar pan? Right now, I'm not hungry now. And the sugar pan empty. So who do that? I will not. Listen, David said, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed. Aren't you the seed of God? God must provide for you. God must deliver you. God must take care of you. These disciples were his. He set them on the sea. While they were rowing and work out themselves, he was watching them to see how they would respond. He could have responded earlier. Listen, from this pandemic start, Christ could have responded long time. You think that some man sit down at one table, claiming to be wealthy and have money, bigger than God? That is why when I see Christians compromise themselves in a certain position. You have to work on the boss and tell him you want to do this with you and that with you, and you have compromise because you want money. A sell out. We not sell out. We not big. I remember going to the sea one time, Pastor Samuel, and I try to walk on the water and sink me a sea. I tried. None of you ever tried before? We tried. I don't know about you. Minister said one pastor tried to drown in Africa. I said that to say this, he can do what you and I can't do. We are not able to do it. I can't walk on water. And at 3 a.m., your fourth watch, Christ will walk out to you, only wanting to get on your boat. Will you allow Christ on your boat today? Or will you continue to wear out yourself, Pastor Sam? You need rescue. You need rescue. You remember earlier I talked about handoff? How you think you get rescue? Give the problem to God. You see, some of the time we want to cleave or hold it our way of doing it. Because if we can't do it and it's stressful, so it off with. Hand it off to God. Will you hand off your problem to God today? Will you allow Christ to get on your boat? Will you allow Christ to step in your boat? Christ wants to rescue you. The Holy Spirit showed me already. Christ is walking towards you. You don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to do it. I can't help you. Your neighbor can't help you. This is a big crisis. Problem and you can't manage it. But God is more than able. The Bible says he can do exceedingly, abundantly, above. Listen, we can't even begin to comprehend. Patiently we are waiting. We cry and we bow. We say, God help. I'm holding my crying Pastor Sam. God for help. Because I tell you that I pray out some things. And I see one set stop. And I continue to pray out some more. You hear the minister talk about unity? We must unify ourselves. Unify ourselves. No longer black or white, rich or poor, uptown, downtown. We need to be on one accord. One accord. Speaking one language. And that is Jesus Christ crucified. Don't let this pandemic stop you from preach God. Don't let the pandemic make you look like those who don't have God. You know when they look at me all the time, they say, they know you're so happy. I was up. I told them about the meeting I was in when they asked me, I tell them about when me I take. The lady that was cheering it today, you know what she said to me? They know you're so happy. They don't want mustard. Oh. You know the Bible tells you that laughter is good medicine for your heart. You guys always wonder why I always try to be cheerful. I see my children cheerful. It's something that I teach them, you know. If you walk with a long and a sad face and a countenance that's not pleasing, it's not good for you. You work out yourself unnecessarily. Quit stressing out your muscles. Smile. If you don't have nothing to eat, tell it to Jesus. Stop worrying about light and water. God control that already. Stop worrying about school fees. God control that already. Don't worry about if you're going to work or no work or a job or no job. The same God, listen, before now you wasn't working. Who provided a job for you? Think about it. Before now you were struggling with other issues. Who get you over that time? Christ will rescue you. Invite him on your boat. Invite Christ on your boat today. Will you invite him or will you continue to stress out yourself? Will you continue to overwork yourself, fighting the wind and the waves? Or will you have a handoff approach? People of God, the Lord is here to rescue. The Lord's desire is for us to be prosperous. The Lord's desire is for us to come out as pure gold. We are on the winning side. The winning team. You're on the A team. We are already a winner. You're not trying to win. You are a winner. You're not trying to win. So if the enemy kick you down and you sit down on the ground, you just get up and brush off yourself. But I watch you. I watch you. Praise God. Don't give him the time of day. Because sometimes the enemy have your back up and he wants you to feel as if Christ is going to help you. The disciples were here, they didn't cry out to God, they never prayed, they not called out to God. Christ walked out to them at 3 a.m. in the morning. Your 3 a.m. is upon you. You're going to come back and testify about it. Stand still and watch God work. Be of good cheer. Be of good cheer. I am that I am. Be not afraid. If you're going to leave here with nothing else to do, be of good cheer, people of God. Clap your hands for victory now. Be of good cheer. Clap your hands. Give the Lord the praise. Shout hallelujah. Shout hallelujah in the house. Shout hallelujah. You see the song where the shackles are broken? That's what I say. But I want to just leave it in your spirit. The shackles are broken. I am delivered.